town of Normal says their $32 million underpass project is still underway, despite one of the contractors pulling out of it. Town officials confirmed Millstone Weber, a Missouri-based contractor, withdrew its bid, worried it could not meet the building requirements or keep up with the quick construction timeline. Now, the town is reaching out to the other contractor, PJ Hare, which is based here in central Illinois, to see if they can get the work done by 2027, because Normal must spend about $16 million in federal funds by that deadline. In a statement to 25 News, the town of Normal says they expect to hear more from PJ Hare by the end of March, and they could bring it to the council in April. You can read that statement on our website, 25newsnow.com.